I used to work at a Pizza Hut when I was in high school. I have had a lot of bizarre stories from working there, but this is the one that scared me the most. My Pizza Hut was the kind where you could only pick up the food, and there was also a wall between the store, front, and the kitchen, so if you were in the front of the store, you were pretty much on your own. The store itself was located in a kind of out of the way dead shopping center. Oh, and it was in Las Vegas. That should tell you a lot about the level of our clientele. For some reason, I've always got stuck on the late shift despite being in high school, so on most weekend nights, by 10 at night, it would be just me and one other cook in the store, twiddling our thumbs. I would hang out at the front, and the cook usually was way at the back of the store, out of earshot. One night I was hanging out behind the counter, and I saw this guy walk past. I didn't think much of it and went back to doing nothing while waiting for my shift to end. Then the door to the store opened. I looked up and realized it's the same guy who just went by. He's tall, but also skeletally thin. And there is something not right about his eyes. But despite him putting me on edge, I get up and greet him and ask him what he'd like to order. Nothing. He just stands there in front of me, staring up at the ceiling, muttering to himself. I was only 17 and for the most part of a good kid despite living in a sin city, so I didn't really know what to make of it. Now, I would probably just chalk it up to drugs. Anyway, he is still standing there, vacant expression and muttering in what sounds like tongues. Then he abruptly spins around and just walks back out of the store without any acknowledging that I exist. I'm a nerd, but I shake it off and sit back down. It's getting towards the end of my shift, and I'm counting down the minutes when I realize somebody has walked back into the store. I look up, it's the same guy. Same creepy eyes, only this time he is holding a phone up to his ear. He's muttering unintelligibly, so I realize he's not talking to anyone. And worse, he's staring right at me, super intense and unblinking. At this point, I was starting to get frightened. He keeps looking at me, so I try to be polite and ask if I can help him. He starts walking towards the counter, still staring at me. Then suddenly, he asks in a perfectly normal voice if his order is ready. I'm mentally going, what the fuck? At this point, and not sure how to answer, so I go with the truth and tentatively point out to him that he didn't order anything when he first came into the store. He gets this bug-eyed look on his face and lunges to the counter. I jump back at this point, and my heart is pounding because this guy obviously is not at all in his right mind. I'm also afraid that he's going to pull out a knife or something and stab me. Then just abruptly, as he lunges, he yells, "God damn it!" Looks super confused / upset, like he's about to cry, and puts his head in his hands and starts pulling out his hair. I start to feel slightly bad at this point and ask as nicely and calmly as I can if he maybe wants to order something now. His head snaps back up, his expression is now completely blank, and he looks totally deranged. I'm holding totally still because I am afraid moving will set him off. Then thankfully the door to the store opens and a huge man walks in. He looks at this guy kind of confused, realizing that something's not right with him. The crazy guy looks at him, looks at me, and then starts backing up until he's out of the door. He starts walking towards the edge of the store front, looking at me the whole time, and then he goes past the edge of the store and is gone. The guy who walked in looks at me and asks, "What the hell was that?" I looked at him. I have no idea. I think he was crazy. I try to shake it off, but I'm totally on edge for the rest of my shift. When I clock out that night, I made one of the drivers walk out with me. Then I jumped in my car and I got out of there. I never saw that dude again. But it was a weird experience and pretty unnerving. I also am not sure what he would have done if that guy hadn't walked in when he did. So me and my boyfriend like going out dancing on the weekend, which always ends with us stumbling into our favorite pizza place before joining the taxi queue. We've done this most weekends for over a year now, so I have become somewhat friendly with the guys who own the pizzeria. They know us by name and always make a big fuss over us and offer us a discount every time. Now here's where it gets freaky. Last night, a Saturday night, at 11 p.m., my boyfriend and I were in bed because we both had work this morning. My phone started ringing, which was weird for that time of night, and I saw it was an unknown number, so I ignored it. Next thing we know, there's someone knocking on the front door. All the lights in the house were off, so we were clearly in bed or not in. I had another call from the same number, and then the person knocking started hammering on the door, flickering the letterbox. My boyfriend got up to answer it, even though I was a bit shaken up, and I warned him not to. If I had been alone in the house, I never would have answered. So he goes downstairs to answer the door, and lo and behold, it's one of the guys from the pizzeria ordering 2 freshly cooked pizzas that we didn't order. He said not to tell the other guys at the shop, but they were a gift from him to us, his favorite customers. My boyfriend took them from him and thanked them, but we couldn't get back to sleep for us. We felt so odd about it. We've have ordered from there once for a takeaway, so that's clearly how he got our address and my phone number, but it's still weird, right? I've had a few delivery jobs that have given me the creeps. 1 or 2 that I was pretty sure I was about to be robbed, or another were a gunfight between gang members unfolded in the street I was delivering to, right as I was turning onto it. But these are just occupational hazards. Yeah, it sucks, but you get over them. Only one delivery job really truly terrified me, the only one that scares me to think about even today. So we get an order from an address that none of us drivers had ever delivered to before. This normally causes some suspicion amongst since we're always pretty wary whenever delivering to a new address. A fair few first-time deliveries have resulted in an address getting blacklisted. Sometimes they try to stiff you for money or some other scam to get free pizza. Generally speaking, the drivers take turns delivering to a new address, and this time it just happened to be my turn. So once the order is completed and the pizzas are boxed up, I take them out to my car and I punch the address in my sat nav. It turns out the address is right on the edge of our delivery area. Pretty much in the middle of absolutely nowhere. It dawns on me that this could be the oldest trick in the book. Call the pizza into some hard to reach location, then demand it to be free once it takes more than 45 minutes to deliver. But to my belief, I make it out onto this older road with time to spare. Yet my relief doesn't last long, not when I see the state of the address I'm delivering to. The house is so run down it looks like a squat, like it's been commandeered by the homeless as a place to avoid sleeping through. There's a rusty old pickup in the driveway. Its wheels are all askewed from years of misuse. I mean, the place was just the very definition of haunted house. Needless to say, I wasn't expecting a particularly generous tip. As I take the pieces out from the passenger seat of my car, I start hearing this faint whining noise. My ears prick up immediately, and I freeze, trying to work out just what the sound is and where it's coming from. I come to realize it's the sound of a violin being played, but more accurately, it was the sound of a violin being played very badly. These discording noises carried on as I walked up the dirt pathway towards the porch and the front door. The drag of some old violin bow across dry old strings that were out of tune, creepy, sure, but that's not what terrified me. When I knocked on the door, the screaming cat violin sound ceased instantly. A few moments of silence went by before I began to hear slow, heavy footsteps growing steadily closer. I can't be certain, but I'm almost sure I heard someone breathing on the other side. These heavy, labored breaths as I waited for the door to open. The silence was broken. A metallic snap of the door unlocking before hurried footfall sounded on the other side. Someone had unlocked the door and then scampered away from it as if they were overly skittish about visitors. Hello? I got your pizza order here, I remember asking, feeling the tension rise as silence once again engulfed the scene. Come inside, mister. A childish voice came from the other side. I wanted to just turn tail and run at this point, but returning to the pizza place without money for the pizzas would definitely mean a verbal or written warning from my manager. I already had one for turning up late. I could not afford another one, so reluctantly I took hold of the door handle and turned it and walked inside. The interior of the house was bathed in darkness, only a half full of week-old oil lamps to give me any sense of the layout. A figure was crouched on a nearby sofa, the old violin laying next to it. There's a $15 bill on the table. There, mister. The person sounded like a child, but they looked bigger than they should have. On the small dusty coffee table in front of the couch, there was a pile of change in little piles. Normally I have taken issue with this, but to be honest, I have desperate to get out of there. At that point, I have taken any form of currency as I stooped down to start sliding the little piles of coins off into my cup palm. I started to hear the kid's labor breathing again, but I dared not look towards him. I could see its legs in my peripheral vision, and even then I could see how unnaturally long they were. This person was not a child. Sorry about the coins, mister. I saved them all up to afford this treat for myself. It's all I have. I told the person not to worry in the sunniest disposition I could muster. The last person not to worry. The last thing I wanted to do at this point was upset them. I pocketed the coins, barely having counted them. Hell, I'd come up with the difference myself if I needed to. Like I said, I just wanted out there. But as I turned to leave, hastily thanking the person for their custom, I caught a glimpse of the person's face in the low light of the oil lamps. They were burned, horribly burned up and down their arms and chest. The scarred flesh extended all the way up to their face, and had only the person's features were obscured by a small rubber mask. The mask didn't even cover their entire face, only a small central portion that concealed their eyes, nose, and mouth. The only thing I could really make out was that the mask had a long wooden nose, kind of like the puppet Pinocchio, whose nose would grow whenever he told lies. The small carved eyes were blank. I averted my gaze from the mask and was unable to return it. It was one of the most hideously sad and scary things I ever laid eyes on. Just as I had reached the front door, I heard the same child voice emanating behind me. "Want to hear me play a song, mister?" Before I even had the chance to answer, I chose to tell them I was too busy with deliveries to hang out any longer. They had grabbed the old violin next to them and began to whine out of tune. Although the strings were almost totally out of tune, I started to make out the tune they were trying for. You know the one, "If you go down in the woods today, you're sure of a big surprise. If you go down in the woods today, you better go in disguise. For every bear that ever there was will gather there for a certain, because today's the day the teddy bears have their picnic." I was in the back of the driver's seat of my car before you could say, "Nope, I'm out," scrambling to start the engine so I could make a quick getaway. I don't think they had any intention of hurting me. I certainly wasn't in as much danger as when those dumbass Crip/Blood wannabes decided to shoot it out like right in front of my car. But something about that place still creeps back into my mind while I lie there in darkness trying to sleep. Something that means I'll never ever make another delivery there. I'll quit before I go back.